Hello everyone and welcome back to Almost There, a Twisted Tale novel here on Disney Magic. We are on chapter 29. So let's dive in. The boat made a low puttering sound as it slothed through the swamp waters. Lewis relaxed against the starboard side and twirled his trumpet on his finger. Charlotte had declared that the rocking was making her both seasick and sleepy. She was currently curled up towards the front of the boat's knobbly bench, with one of Tiana's bags of provisions serving as her pillow. Naveen returned his attention to Tiana. She was focused, her eyes constantly roaming from left to right. She refused his offer to take her over driving duties, proudly declaring that she could steer the boat just fine on her own. All he wanted was to give her a little time to rest. As he stared at her profile, Naveen wondered what had spawned her to need to be constantly be in pursuit of something. As if taking a moment to just relax was some kind of invisible mark against her. Are you sure you do not want me to take over? He tried again. Just for a little while, so you can stretch your neck. Is that the right phrase? Stretch your neck? I've got it, she answered. The canals are getting narrower the deeper we get into the bayou. I've got to take care to stay in the centre of the waterway. Last thing we need is to have the propeller get caught up in a bunch of weeds. After a few minutes, their tranquil surroundings were polluted with a loud snore. Naveen looked over his shoulder and chuckled at the sight of Lewis and Charlotte, now sharing the same bag as a pillow. So much for help from those two, he said. Tiana glanced over her shoulder and smiled. It's probably for the best. Easier to concentrate on where we're going. Naveen thought it best as well. He liked the idea of not having to share Tiana's attention with their other boatmates, although it was not as if she was paying all that much attention to him. After her earlier teasing about his interest in dance moves, she had gone back to manning the boat and had not spoken much. Do you find it odd the heavy fog is no longer with us? Naveen asked, deciding the weather was a safe subject to start with. I would have thought it would be worse here in this soupy swamp, no? I don't know what to make of that fog, she said. But then she sat up straighter. Actually, I've just had a thought. Maybe it's because we're no longer in New Orleans, and it's the city that's... She stopped, her mouth pulled into a frown. I'm not sure, she said. I just hope it lets up soon back home. A bug whizzed past Tiana's head, and she flapped her hand around, waving it away. Ugh, I don't particularly like these stowaways, especially after Congo Square. She shifted towards the side of the boat, then ran her fingers through the water. Naveen's breath quickened as he was struck with a strange sense of familiarity. It was as if he'd already seen her do that very thing. Have we been here before? He asked. Tiana looked at him. Her big brown eyes narrowed with suspicion. What do you mean? In this boat? Yes, he nodded. I remember you talking about your dislike of bugs. You do not want to eat one. Her eyes widened with dismay. What am I talking about? Naveen nervously laughed. That was a ridiculous thing to say. Why would there be talk about you eating a bug? Although he was certain there had been. Well, almost certain. He shook his head. Maybe the heat was getting to him. And of course we have not been here before. We have not been anywhere before. He huffed out a regretful sigh. You practically run away when I am near you. The moment he said the words, Naveen wished he could take them back. They revealed too much. He was afraid if Tiana knew just how much she captivated him, she would pull away even more. It's not you, she said. His eyes shot to hers. It's not? Forget I said that, she said quickly. No, please, he leant towards her. What did you mean? Really, it's nothing. She hesitated for a moment before continuing. It's like I said before, I'm very busy with my restaurant. She glanced away from the water, just long enough to grace him with a subtle grin. So I guess it wouldn't hurt to occasionally sit and talk with you and Lottie when you're there at the supper club. I would like that very much, Naveen said. He would like it even more if it were just the two of them, without Charlotte, but that would come eventually. He would take baby steps with Tiana. They returned to that companionable silence again, but Naveen no longer felt the impulse to fill it with chatter. He'd achieved what he had set out to accomplish. He had managed to get Tiana to smile at him, taught him. She'd even agreed not to scurry away when he approached her. Naveen? Tiana's soft voice pierced his musings. Yes? I'm actually getting a little tired. Would you mind taking over for a minute? Of course not. He spoke so quickly that he caused the boat to wobble just a bit. Charlotte woke up with a start. What's going on? It's nothing, Lotta, Tiana said. Naveen's going to drive the boat for a while. Go back to sleep. Oh, okay, Charlotte said, then put her head down again. Sorry about that, Naveen replied. He moved closer to the motor and grabbed hold of the wooden handle used to steer it. As Tiana released her hold on the handle, her hand brushed against his. It felt as if a bolt of electricity flashed through him. The air around them was heavy with something. Naveen could not describe as they had stared at each other for several moments, neither moving their hands. I'm going to get a pear, Tiana said. Do you want anything? Not a pear, Naveen said without thinking. He mentally scolded himself over for his forwardness. But Tiana did not chastise him. Instead, a blush formed on her delicate cheeks. Acadanza! She was so lovely she took his breath away. She finally slipped her hand away from his and moved to the front of the boat. Naveen could hear her shushing Charlotte in a soothing voice. A few minutes later she returned, claiming the spot where he had sat for much of their journey. So Tiana, where exactly are we headed again? Took a bite of her pear and chewed excruciatingly slowly. So slow that Naveen was sure she had done so on purpose. After a moment she said, There's a lady who lives on the bayou. She's special. She has, special powers, she chuckled. I know this may sound crazy to you, but no, he said, cutting her off. If you need to see a bayou lady with special powers, who am I to judge? He almost asked if she had ever mentioned Mama Odie to him before. After his statement about the bug, he thought it best not to say anything. She smiled that smile at him again. The one that made Naveen think that maybe he was really starting to make some progress. I was a bit surprised that you wanted to drive the boat at all, I said. You're not one for manual labour. At least you didn't used to be. You've changed. How do you know that I have changed? Because, well, you made quite the splash when you first came to New Orleans. Your reputation of being a laissez-faire... What? Your reputation of being a laissez-faire playboy was well known throughout the city. Yeah, well, that was last year. It didn't seem all that long ago, she remarked in a wise, wistful voice. No, Naveen said. No, it does not. He tipped his head to the side. Yet in many ways it feels like a lifetime. Really? How so? He shrugged. I just feel like a different person. I cannot explain it, Naveen chuckled. I have to think about what my parents would say if they ever saw their... What was that phrase you just used? Laissez-faire? It means carefree, she said around another bite of her pear. Yes, they're laissez-faire, son. My father would probably say, Why did it take you coming to America to learn the value of a hard day's work? He mimicked his father's voice. Although he was not so sure about that anymore. Based on that letter he received from his parents, they no longer cared about his lack of a work ethic. But he cared. He did not want to be seen as that lazy, carefree playboy anymore, especially by Tiana. How do you know so much about my reputation? Naveen peered at her from his side of the boat. Sounds as if you were paying more attention to me than you like to let on, Miss Tiana. She pulled her bottom lip between her teeth, a demure smile playing at her lips. Don't flatter yourself, she said, but the words didn't hold much censure. It was almost as if she was teasing him. Was she teasing him? It would be a very good thing if that was the case. Teasing was one more step closer to not running away from him. Tiana reached over and pulled a leaf from a low-hanging branch. She twirled it between her fingers. Can I ask you something? She asked. Anything, Naveen quickly asked. Do you ever think about going back home to... Where is it you're from again? He sent her a sly smile. Come now, Tiana. Would you have me believe that you don't know where I am from? Fine. She rolled her beautiful brown eyes. Maldonia. Do you ever think of going back home to Maldonia, Mr. Prince? Naveen decided to be honest. Sometimes, he answered. I'm not sure I will go back to stay. I miss my parents and the rest of my family, but I want to show them that I can move around about the world without my family's money, that I can make it on my own. And well, maybe I want to show that myself that too. Do they know you're working in a sugar mill? What's wrong with working in a sugar mill? Nothing, she said. You just don't see that many princes doing it. Well, it is nice to be the first at something in my family, he said with a grin. They relaxed again into one of those comfortable silences. This time, Naveen did not interrupt it. He welcomed the sounds of the birds chirping and the toads cracking. He welcomed the sound of the birds chirping and the toads croaking. There was something peaceful about the unseen inhabitants of the swamp going about their day. He glanced over at Tiana and caught her yawning. It was the prettiest yawn he had ever seen. You can go to sleep if you like, he told her. You can trust me to man the boat. I don't think so, she said with a laugh. She yawned again. This one was by far the prettiest yawn he had ever seen. I'll stay up and keep you company, she said. Just keep us steady. Don't veer off course for a second. You have a lot of demands, you know that? So I've been told, she said. He peered out over the water again. I don't know why, but I cannot shake the feeling that I've been here before, Naveen remarked. There's something about this swamp that seems very familiar to me. The smell, I think. I cannot explain it. Well, Tiana started, then stopped. Well, what? Naveen inquired. Well, maybe some of the men who work at the sugar mill are from around here. You probably smell it on their clothes. It's not easy to get rid of this scent once it's in your skin. So are you telling me that I will smell like this stinky swamp forever? She laughed. It'll wear off eventually. You have a lovely laugh, Naveen said. So beautiful, so rare. I laugh all the time, she countered. You should laugh more often when you are around me. I would like very much to make you laugh, Tiana. Naveen could not be sure, but he thought he would saw a faint spark of interest in her gaze before she broke eye contact. She fiddled with the kerosene lamp she'd bought. Shall I light this? She asked. He sighed. Just when he thought they were bonding, she pulled away. I can see just fine right now, Naveen answered. Why don't you save it in case it gets murkier? Okay, she said. Then she yawned again, with the whole body this time, stretched her balled fist in the air. Actually, I think I will take that nap. You'll wake me if you need me? She asked. There was much he would still have liked to say, but Naveen feared that they would go right back to the way things had been, which had seemed put off by his very presence. So instead he said, I have it from here, Tiana. Get some rest.